Yin is kind of like the opposite of a vinyasa flow. So when we do vinyasa, it's fast-paced, it's exciting, it's challenging. This is also challenging, but it's just challenging in a different way. So we are gonna spend our time in just 6 poses. And these 6 poses, we're gonna take a couple minutes in each. Allow yourself to relax, allow yourself to let go and surrender. This class is a great one to do in the middle of the day because we are going to start out with very nice, relaxing, surrendering postures. Then we're going to end with a little bit more energizing. So we'll get started in a seated position with your legs straight out in front of you. Sitting up nice and tall. Keeping your toes facing up towards the ceiling, and sit up tall as much as you can. And for this class, we're not going to use too many props, but we will need either a blanket, a towel, or if you have blocks at home, you can use blocks for the last pose. But for now, no props needed unless you really want them. Rooting the tailbone down into the ground, rooting the sit bones down into the ground, lifting up tall. When we get into our fold, what we're gonna do is allow the body to round and bring the forearms onto the legs, allowing them to kind of stop the fold. So you can bring the forearms to the thighs, you can bring the forearms to the shins, and then let the head drop down. Now already, this might be very sensational in the backs of the legs. So if it tends to be a little bit too intense in the back of the legs, I want you to bring it back a little bit further. What you want to go for is sensation, like the edge point where your body has a little bit of resistance that it says, all right, this is my stopping point. Once you find that, letting yourself settle in, because we're gonna be here for a little while. About 2 minutes. Keeping the feet can be a little bit more relaxed if you don't want to keep them dorsiflexed so intensely. And after a little while of letting the body rest here, it's just a little bit more easy to let the body relax down. And see if you can breathe in and out through the nose while you're here. What the purpose of yin is, not just to be relaxing, not just to slow down, which it does, but also to really condition the deep tissues of the body, the connective tissue, the fascia. Allow the fascia, which really can get tight and restrictive, can cause adhesions, not allow the body and the muscles to easily slide past each other as you move. And when it's dehydrated, when it's tight, all of that can limit your range of motion. So what we're doing here, if you can use the imagery like your body is a sponge, and when you take a stiff sponge that is dehydrated and you soak it, you reinvigorate the sponge, you fill it up again. And that's what we're gonna do in yin, especially in the middle of the day. And stay here for 1 more minute. Eyes are closed, letting the head relax. Do you need to move at all? Let it be to either back off of the stretch or to bring it in a little bit deeper. As you inhale, start to bring the hands up. Bring your hands to the ground. Slide your hips forward and lie down onto your back. Before you move anywhere, let the legs straighten. Let the legs just relax down. Let the hands fall down by the sides. We're not going into Shavasana yet, but I want you to feel a release. Tune into the breathing. Allow the breath to really fill up through the belly. And exhale, let it release. Beginning to bend your knees, plant your feet, and then just loosely bring your knees into your chest. Keeping the knees together. If you need something underneath your legs as you twist, you can put a blanket underneath your legs or between your knees if that's more comfortable. We're going to drop the legs over to the left, knees pointing to the left. Right shoulder stays on the mat. You can bring your arm into a T shape or a goalpost. And staying here for a few minutes. And if having your arms out to the sides doesn't feel comfortable, you can always take your hands onto your ribs. As you're in a twist, sometimes the breathing can be a little bit stifled because we're twisting up, but if you can still maintain a nice deep inhale and exhale through the nose. Maybe even lingering at the top of your inhale. And a little linger at the bottom of your exhale. Notice where you're holding any tension. See if you can relax into the shoulders. Into the knees. And into that right hip. There's no rush with Yin. You simply get to let yourself surrender, which can be kind of challenging all in itself. If you're the type of person that likes to keep moving, slowing down can be more of a challenge than anything. On your next inhale, bringing your legs back up to center. Take your feet down onto the mat here for a moment. Let the knees knock in. Feet are wider than the hips, hands by your sides. I want you to notice the subtle difference from your right side and your left side. And taking the knees loosely back into your chest. Dropping the legs over to the right. Left shoulder stays on the mat. You can take it into goalpost, T-shape, or you can rest your hands on your ribs. We're going to stay here for another few minutes. One side is going to feel a little bit tighter than the other. So if you need to, you can take that blanket back underneath your legs or between your legs. Continue to try to breathe in through the left side of the ribs, expanding, maybe holding the breath for a moment at the top. And holding the breath for a moment at the bottom. Notice if the breath feels a little bit restricted in any way. And see if you can just begin to soften through any areas of tension. And maybe the body will begin to open up a little bit more. Be more responsive to the relaxation. Inhale, bring the legs back up to center. Let the knees knock in. Hands can rest either on your belly or by your sides. Take a moment after every pose to reset. Maybe feeling a little bit more symmetry through both sides of the body. Maybe some lengthening. We're going to begin to bring the whole body over to the right side. So pressing onto your right side here, press your left hand into the floor to come up. I'm going to come into pigeon. In yin also, this is called sleeping swan. Taking your hands out in front of you, bring your right knee to your right wrist. The left leg is going to walk back until you feel that point of resistance. So you want the shin to be at an angle, pointing your toes or pointing your foot, flexing your toes, keeping your hips even. If you need to slide a blanket or a block underneath your right hip, you can do so to keep it comfortable. And then start to rock down onto your forearms. And you can stay here, or you can reach all the way out in front of you, relaxing down. And we'll be here for 3 minutes. You can rest your forehead onto your hands. Whatever is allowing your body to rest into this pose. And this one is not the most comfortable posture, definitely not on the list of poses you want to stay in for 10 plus minutes. But for 3 minutes, we can relax through the outer hip. Gives a little bit of a mental challenge as it starts to get a little bit uncomfortable. But as that starts to happen, if it does happen in your body, thinking about the sponge again. At this brief period of lengthening, you're soaking your body, keeping the breath smooth and steady, and keeping it moving down towards the belly. Making sure that the back toes are pointed back behind you or tucked under, protecting your ankle and your knee. There might be a little bit of a tingling sensation happening in your outer hip and your leg. It's what we call the tourniquet effect. And as we release it, it brings all the fluid back into the leg, rejuvenating the tissue, and it absorbs it just like that sponge. On your next inhale, start to make your way up onto your hands, breaking down the pose. Your options here to walk your left knee in, maybe take it back to down dog if you want. Or you can just step back into a tabletop. And preparing for the other side, left knee goes behind the left wrist. Bringing your shin at an angle, pointing the foot, flexing the toes. Walking your right knee back until you feel that point of resistance. Pointing the back toes straight back or tucking them under. And walking first down onto your forearms. You can always place a blanket underneath your left hip. Sometimes what happens is one hip is tighter than the other. And if that's the case on the side, maybe it needs a little bit more support. There's nothing wrong with that. And if you want to, you can reach arms straight out, or you can stack your hands and let your forehead drop onto your hands. And 3 minutes here. As tempting as it is to continue tensing the left hip, see if you can release it with your exhales. And if you have any sensation that is not stretching related, but if it's painful in any way, then back off of the pose, maybe take it onto your back into a figure 4. Always want to feel this in the hips, not the knees. Notice if you're holding any tension outside of the hip, maybe in the shoulders and the neck. Even in the face, we tend to hold a lot of tension. So in the eyes and the jaw. Removing the tongue from the roof of the mouth. And keeping your focus on the breath. As you feel the tingling in the hip and the leg, remember the sponge. Soak it all in. Restore range of motion. Condition the fascia. These deeper tissues of the body that need some love. With all of our vinyasa practices and our strength training and our HIIT training. On your next inhale, walk it up. And just sit onto your left hip, bring your legs around, and if you have a block or blocks, you can use those. If you have just a blanket, I'm going to show the blanket option first into supported fish. You're going to take the blanket right underneath your shoulder blades, or right even behind your shoulder blades, letting the legs straighten out. Hands can be by your sides or hands can be on your belly. This is great right here if you want that, if that's the props that you have available to you. If you want to take it into supported fish with the blocks, take one of the blocks on its middle setting, so low, middle, and high. One of the blocks into the middle setting, one block can be on the high setting or the middle setting. You can adjust when you get there. And you want to bring the block right underneath the bottom of the block, right underneath the tips of your shoulder blades. And the other block will be right underneath your head. And this will be just enough of a passive back bend to open up the chest, to keep the hips rooted down into the mat, so make sure the hips are on the mat, that the head is supported and you don't have your head upside down. And the legs can easily straighten out in front of you. If you need to knock the block underneath your shoulder blades down a notch, you can. Bringing the shoulders back, hands, palms facing up. And right here, this supported fish, it's both nourishing and energizing. We have on one hand the energizing aspect of the back bend. But then we have the nourishment of the stillness. Allowing the chest to open, counteracting all of the forward, hunching over, slouching that we are all guilty of. Especially in winter time, as it's cold and we want to curl up. As it becomes springtime, this is a new opportunity for opening, for spring cleaning in the body, releasing tension, restoring the tissues, the deeper tissues of the body to their natural range of motion, their natural elasticity and viscosity. And as you're breathing here, I know it's easy to bring it up into the chest and puff the chest out, but see if it can bring the breath lower into the belly region. Maybe even slowing down your exhales. Relaxing any part of the body that feels tense or tightened up. And stay with me here as the body might feel restless, wanting to move. Sometimes staying in one position for minutes at a time can trigger anxiety in the body, and that's normal. And what we can do in our yin practice is create a body that is more resilient to stress by inviting it to participate in a controlled stress environment. And on your inhale, bend the knees, plant the feet. Use your right forearm to press you up into the side, all the way up into a comfortable seated position. We're going to end with a bit of pranayama called nadi shodhana, or alternate nostril breathing. And the purpose of this pranayama is to balance both sides of the body, balance both sides of the brain, and to really promote that parasympathetic nervous system response. I want you to take the right hand and take down the two first fingers, index finger and middle finger. And this is called Vishnu Mudra, and this is just how we will place our fingers on our nose. So taking the right hand up, the thumb will be by the right nostril, the ring finger will be by the left nostril. Closing off your left nostril, with the eyes closed or softly open, breathe in through the right. When you get to the top of that inhale, close off both and let the ring finger go. Exhale through the left. Inhale through the left. Close off both. Exhale through the right. And you don't have to hold them tightly, especially if you're feeling congested. Inhale right. Closing both. Exhale left. In left. Close both. Exhale right. And last round. Inhale right. Close both. Exhale left. Finishing it out. Inhale left. Close both. Exhale right. Once you're done with that exhale, take your hands back down onto your knees. Breathing naturally in and out through the nose, through both nostrils. When you're ready, bringing your hands together at heart center. Thank you so much for practicing in with me today. I hope that you're able to get back into your day energized and recentered and relaxed. Thank you and namaste.